real estate investor. This is the room you need to be in. Learning about your local market. What's working, what's not working, who to work with, more importantly, who not to work with. The real estate investors in this room have decades of experience. Some of them decades of experience. They can give you ideas on the local market that nobody else can. So if you're a young investor, I encourage you to be an active participant in the RIA. Don't just come to the meeting and listen. Participate. When Terry and me need help, volunteer. You really get out of a RIA what you put into it. If you want to learn about real estate investing, this is the right room to be in. So thanks for coming tonight. Just wanted that was my commercial on RIAs. I believe in RIAs. They're here to serve. They're here to educate. And just listening to the suggestions that Dolores was giving at the end. If you were listening, that paid for the membership right there. When Terry said $52 a year, $52 a year, that is insane. Most RIAs around the country are several times that. So $52 a year to learn about your local market. That's amazingly cheap. So I really encourage people to participate, to volunteer, to be an active participant in this RIA. As I get to interact with our clients from across the country. Some of our very largest clients, most active clients, are active members of RIAs. I'm a member of 4 RIAs myself. So this is an organization that I truly believe in. If you want to get educated, come to these meetings and be an active participant. So now, as I said, we're going to be doing a workshop on Saturday. I'll come back to this a little bit later. It's going to be it's an all-day workshop. Registration is from 7:30 to 8:30. We'll kick the program off at 8:30 a.m. We do a working lunch. So we want people to bring their questions, bring their investments that they're working on now. John Bowens, who will be our lead speaker, John reads tax code for light reading and enjoyment. He digs into this like nobody else. He himself has done over 10,000, helped over 10,000 real estate investors to doing what's called the self-directed IRA. He'll be assisted with one of our most senior account advisors, Jessica Zantarski. That'll be this Saturday. It's going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn, just a few blocks from here on Linden Road. As I said, lunch is provided. We should finish about 5:30. John is known for going a little over time, so if you have questions, he will not stop until the questions are answered. We did a workshop in Milwaukee where John made the statement, if anyone has questions, I'm going to stay here till the end. We started at 7:30 a.m. At 7:30 p.m., I stood up and said, guys, we've been here for 12 hours. I'm hungry. It's time to stop. So John will go and go and go. We call him the Energizer Bunny around the office because he gets a kick out of this. He will stay and answer questions until everything is answered. So again, I'll come back to this at the end of the night. One thing that we do, when you're in an all-day workshop, if anyone's ever participated in an all-day real estate workshop, by about noon, your brain is fried. You've learned a lot. It's information. One thing we've done with this workshop is we've recorded it. We used to break up the room into a novice room and an experienced room to give specific education. So we actually recorded the all-day session. Those people who attend will actually go home with the recordings. So that way you don't have to worry. It's like, I'm going to forget something. I'm going to miss something. Or I'm a novice person. I wanted to hear what the experience room was talking about. You're going to get it all. So we want you to be able to come, participate, listen, and learn, and not be so worried about taking every single note because you're going to get the recording. Okay? So in terms of what I'm going to go over today, I'm going to go over what a self-directed IRA is, what it is not. So just a brief definition of that. We're going to go over 7 different types of accounts. These are retirement accounts that we can use to do what's called a self-directed IRA investment. So we'll go over the taxation of each of those accounts. I'm going to pay particular attention to the tax-free account or the Roth account. It's really not a tax-free account. It's just how you pay the taxes or when you pay the taxes. I want to make sure we understand that. Go over a couple of case studies. I'll focus on real estate since this is a real estate investment association. I'll focus on real estate, but I want to do some case studies of what our clients are doing, how they're growing their account. On Saturday, when we do our Saturday workshop, John will go over many more case studies and really peel the layers of the onion and get very specific. Not just real estate on Saturday. We'll talk about other classifications as well. Primarily focused on real estate, but we'll talk about entity structuring, joining multiple accounts together, investing into LLCs, investing in commercial property. So we'll cover a lot more ground than I'm going to cover here tonight, just at a very high level. Those people that are interested in getting started, we'll talk about that a little bit, different steps you can take to get started doing a self-directed IRA. Take notes. Everyone has, oops, before I'm on one slide off. If you've ever attended an equity trust talk or one of our competitors, this is a very important slide. It's also a requirement of all financial institutions to go over. You have to understand who we are, what we do, and what we don't do. So equity trust is a passive custodian, meaning that we are not a fiduciary to your account. We don't render tax, legal, or financial advice. We educate people on what IRA accounts are and how they can be used to do various forms of investments. We definitely encourage people, if you're going to do any investment, make sure you know who you're investing with. Make sure you do your own due diligence. Something as simple as Googling the people that you're working with, very important. I heard stories tonight at the beginning of some people that were being taken advantage of off of something as simple as Craigslist. You really have to watch everything you do when you're doing an investment. When you're doing an investment, it involves risk, up to and including the loss of principal, so make sure you're doing your own due diligence, very important. Surround yourself with a team of people that you know and can trust, real estate advisor, broker, tax advisor, legal advisor. You need to have a team of people around you. So what I'm going to be talking about tonight is for educational purposes only. With that in mind, let's get to the good stuff. Everyone has this card in front of them. You're going to have notes. Take some notes on it. On the back is a sign-up. The sign-up is for Mr. Dessage's latest book. Mr. Dessage is the founder of our company. 238 pages, I think. The thing I like about it is we took 30 of our most successful clients. We did case studies with those clients. The book goes over the case studies with those clients. Also retirement calculators, but in the back of the book are the URL addresses to the webinars that we actually recorded with those clients, talking about the different investments they're doing, how they're structuring their deals. I encourage people to sign up for the book. You'll get a download of the book. If you don't want to call, just put do not call on the card. We do not make cold calls. We don't make calls to people that don't want to talk to us. You'll still get the book. You'll still get the download of the book. We do ask for the telephone number because when we're in the area, we pull the customer list by area code. So if you don't want to call, just put do not call on it, and nobody's going to call you. You'll still get the education. The very first question I always ask is, what is a self-directed IRA? And I normally get some interesting responses. A self-directed IRA. I want to ask volunteers in the interest of time because I can go on for a while. But understand there's actually no such thing as a self-directed IRA. That is strictly an industry term. An IRA that you have with Equity Trust is exactly the same type of IRA that you would have with Fidelity, Schwab, T. Rowe Price, or anyone else. The difference is not in the account itself. It's in the custodian, the company that holds the account. We're a custodian that specializes in alternative assets, assets outside of just stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Most of our 250,000 clients invest in things like real estate. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Most of our clients invest in real estate-backed notes, something like that. But it's the IRS that tells us what we can and cannot invest in. Really, they tell us what we cannot invest in. The only thing that the IRS tells us we cannot invest in is art and antiques, collectibles, S corporations, alcoholic beverages, and life insurance policies. Everything else, your IRA, your retirement account, can be used to invest in that. We have a client in Kentucky. He knows racehorses. A few years ago, his IRA actually owned one of the Kentucky Derby racehorses, or a part of the racehorse. The horse didn't win, but his investment now is collecting stud fees from that horse. So that's what's growing his retirement account. We have another investor in St. Louis, music teacher. He knows teaching kids about how to play a musical instrument. His IRA actually owns the musical instruments that he rents back to his students. So that's how he's growing his IRA. So we're real estate investors. Well, I'll talk today about how your IRA, your retirement accounts, can be used in real estate investing. But understand that what's called a self-directed IRA, referred to as a self-directed IRA, can really be used to invest in just about anything. It's what you know, what you have experience in, that's what your IRA can invest in. So, not so much anymore, but occasionally I still get the question is it legal? Is it something that the IRS permits? So I tell people, go right out to the irs.gov site. In the search engine, type in real estate IRA. You'll come up with this. And right on the website, it'll say IRA law does not prohibit investing in real estate, but trustees are not required to offer them as an option. So it's not the IRA that limits it, it's the custodian, the person who administers, the company that administers the account. Again, equity trust and people like us that deal with self-directed IRAs, and again, that's just an industry term, we specialize in alternative assets. Okay. So I said there are 7 different types of accounts that you can use to do a self-directed IRA or invest in things outside of just stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. I'll quickly go over them. Saturday we'll take a much deeper dive into these accounts in much greater detail. But understand, there are 7 types of accounts. They fall into 3 different buckets. The first bucket is the individual retirement accounts. The IRA, individual retirement account, IRA. They fall into 2 different types of accounts that anyone in this room can have. There are the traditional accounts. They've been around since 1974. I'll go into a little more detail about the tax advantages of traditional accounts. The Roth account, which has been around since 1994, sometimes referred to as a tax-free account. Again, there's no such thing as a tax-free account. It's just when we pay the taxes, how we pay the taxes. But I will spend a lot of time on the Roth account. If you're a small business owner, there are 3 specialty accounts. So small business accounts, if you're a small business owner, write small business on your card. You want to make sure you get specific information about the small business accounts. Small business owners can get up to $61,000 a year in a tax-sheltered environment. With either a SEP account or a solo K account. So if you are self-employed, we want to make sure we get specific information on those 2 accounts to you. Most of us are familiar with the 401k. If your employer offers a 401k, extremely important that you're participating in that plan. Many employers will offer a match. Make sure that you're participating in that account at least up to that match. Otherwise, you're leaving money on the table. No reason to do that. Recently, in the last few years, the IRS came out with a Roth 401k. That's a great account. Again, the investment grows tax-free. I'll get into the taxation in a minute. But if you have a 401k, that's what's called a tax-deferred account. Ask your employer about a Roth 401k, and I'll show you the difference in the taxation. A Roth 401k, very powerful account. Your investments will grow in a tax-free environment. 2 specialty accounts. The CISA, Coverdale Education Savings Account. Just like the title says, it's for educational purposes. So anyone can open a Coverdale Education Savings account for someone who's under the age of 18. The account has to be administered by the parent or guardian, but anyone can open and contribute to it. The other often overlooked account that you can use to do a self-directed IRA, and again, we'll get into much greater detail on Saturday, is the health savings account. sometimes referred to as an HSA. Health savings account is the only account where you get both a tax deduction when you put money into the account, and your investment grows in a tax-free manner. So again, tax deduction, and it grows in a tax-free manner. For the health savings account, tax-free so long as you are using it for a qualified medical expense. You do have to have what's called a high deductible health plan, and that's a deductible of $2,000 or more. So again, those are the 7 accounts. I'm going very, very quickly. Saturday will slow down, and we will go into much, much greater detail. I want to talk about the taxation of the various accounts. And the taxation breaks down to a simple question. Do you want to pay the taxes on the seed, or do you want to pay taxes on the crop? Seed or crop? You want to pay it when it's the smallest possible. You want to pay it on the seed. So let's talk about that with these various accounts. When we're talking about paying taxes on the crop, we're talking about traditional IRAs. Traditional IRAs have been around, again, since 1974. Those are the 401ks, the 403bs, the TSP, thrift savings plans, pension plans, or traditional accounts, SEPs and SIMPLES, those self-employed accounts. Anyone in this room can also have a traditional IRA. A traditional IRA, this year, the limits went up. You can, if you're under the age of 50, you can put in $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, you get a $1,000 catch-up. You can put in $7,000. If you work but your spouse does not, you can contribute. You can open an account for your spouse and contribute to your spouse's account as well. So you can double these numbers. This time of the year, we always mention that on the traditional 401ks, you have until April 15th to open and contribute to an account, and you will get a tax deduction off of the prior year. So off your 2018 taxes, if you open and fund an account, you will get a tax deduction off of last year's taxes. One other thing I want to mention about the traditional accounts, keep in mind you're investing with money that has never been taxed yet. At some point in time, the government would like its money back. Would like to collect some taxation on it. So with a traditional IRA, at 70 and a half, we have what's called RMDs, or required minimum distributions. At 70 and a half, with a traditional account, you have to pay tax, or you have to start making a withdrawal, and you pay taxes based on what your ordinary income tax rate is at that time. Again, I'm going very quickly on this. I just want to get through the types of accounts. We'll get into what you can do with these accounts next. Let's talk about how it works with a traditional. Again, you put the money in while you're working. You're not paying taxes on this money. You're actually getting a tax deduction. So the investments are growing in a tax-exempt environment. You're not paying taxes on that money until at the age of 59 and a half. That's the age which you can start withdrawing from a retirement account, 59 and a half. A lot of people wait until 62, 63, 65, but at age 70 and a half, you have to start taking distributions. When you take a distribution with a tax-deferred account, that's when you start paying the taxes on it. So money went in during your working years, it grew and grew and grew. Finally, in retirement, you have a tax bill on the money that you take out from this account. A couple more things on a traditional IRA. So long as you take the money out after 59 and a half, post 59 and a half, you do not pay a penalty. If you do take money out of one of these accounts prior to age 59 and a half, you have a 10% penalty on that money. Plus it gets added to your ordinary income tax. So now you're paying income tax on top of the 10% penalty. So obviously the advice is do not take money out until you hit age 59 and a half. Post 59 and a half, whatever you take out gets added to your ordinary income tax. And I'll show you what that means in a moment. Example, if your account grew to $1 million through your working years, in the first year of retirement you took out $100,000. If you're in a 20% tax bracket, IRS is going to hit you with a $20,000 tax bill. So that's how traditionals work. When they came out in '74, the thought on the traditional was most people will make less money in retirement. That is not always the case, and often not the case with real estate investors. It is not unusual that we see taxes, our tax rate higher in retirement. I don't have a crystal ball, but the other thing I want to point out is, do we think taxes will go down in the future, or do we think at some point in time they're going to go up? Yes, at some point in time, we're going to have to pay down our national credit card. Okay, the bill will come due at some point in time. So we really want to get our money in a tax-free or a tax-advantaged environment. So we'll talk about the different types of accounts. And again, I said with a traditional account, traditional IRA, we do have what's called required minimum distributions at age 70 and a half. You will have to start taking a deduction, and that whatever you take out will be hit with income tax at that time. There is a much better way, and that is the Roth account. The Roth account came out in 1994. This is Senator William Roth, a senator out of Delaware. We actually celebrate this guy's birthday in our office because we believe in tax-free investing so much. He was a very tenacious gentleman. The legislation to give us the Roth account had to be, he introduced it 9 times before it was actually passed. So starting in 1994, we have now there's a Roth account. A couple things about a Roth account. Just like a traditional account, anybody in this room can have a Roth account. Some people will say, well, I make too much money. There are income limits on a Roth. There is an easy workaround. And I'll get to that in the next couple slides. It has the same contribution limits as the traditional. So if you're, this year, if you're under the age of 50, you can put in $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, it's $7,000. And just like with the traditional, you can do a catch-up, you can do a prior year contribution. Just like with the traditional, if you work but your spouse does not, you can open an account for your spouse and make a double contribution. Unlike the traditional, a Roth does not have required minimum distributions. So at no time do you have to take money out of your Roth account. We see a lot of people use a Roth account for estate planning. The beauty of a Roth is it's an account lives for 100 years. So if you wanted to do some estate planning and you wanted to leave your kids, your grandkids, your heirs with tax-free money, you can do that with a Roth. The Roth account passes to them tax-free. You can leave it to your spouse tax-free. They do not have to take out any required minimum distributions. When it skips a generation, there will be required minimum distributions based on that person's age. Okay? But again, with a Roth account, this money never hits their income tax. It's tax-free. You never pay any more income tax. You never pay capital gains tax on anything you've invested with a Roth account. So let's talk about this illustration. Roth, you are investing after you pay the taxes. So I've been paid with my W-2 money. I then invested into real estate. Over 10, 20, 30 years, doesn't matter what that account grows to, doesn't matter how large it gets. When I start taking it out at age 59 and a half, never hits my income tax, ever. We don't talk about clients' accounts, but there is a couple presidential cycles ago, one of the presidential candidates made it known that he had a $100 million Roth account, Mitt Romney. So it kind of came on the radar when he ran for president. He didn't make his in real estate; his was in hedge fund. But there are people that have over $100 million in their Roth accounts. Again, it's completely tax-free. What I like about people like that is we all have the same limitations. We all have the same limitations on what we can put in. But it's what the account can grow to that's the difference. We're real estate investors. There are people here that have deals that they've made 20, 30, 40% on. Imagine never having to pay income tax on that gain, ever. And being able to reinvest 100% of those gains and that not hit your income tax ever. So that's the power of these accounts, what I want to talk about, and what we'll spend a lot of time talking about on Saturday. So I said before, there are income limits for you to have a Roth account. Don't worry about that. It's called a backdoor conversion. Really, it's just a conversion. Anyone in this room, regardless of income, can open a traditional IRA. All you have to do is convert the money over to a Roth. And now you have money in a tax-free vehicle. There is no income limit on that. Good example, our own company owners, the Dessingers, high-income individuals. They convert money over to from a traditional to a Roth, and your money is now in a tax-free vehicle. It really hit home to me when I read the book, The Power of Zero. Power of Zero talks about how to put yourself in a 0% net tax bracket before you retire. And you're just doing a series of small conversions. Very, very quick read. It's only, I believe it's $10 on Amazon. The Power of Zero. I encourage people to take a look at that book. It talks about how to set yourself up in a 0% net tax bracket before you retire, and the steps you can take while you're in your working years to do that. Great read. Very, very inexpensive education. Encourage people to take a look at that book. I've got it on both my Kindle and on this one. I probably read it 20 times. Easy steps you can take through just a series of small conversions and how you can get your money from a taxable to a tax-free account. A couple more things on a Roth. On a Roth account, your contributions that you put in, you can take out your contributions at any time, no penalty. It's your growth that you have to wait 5 years. So if you're 60 years old and you open a Roth account today, you have to wait until you're 65 before you can start taking the growth of that account out. If not, you're going to be hit with a 10% penalty, and you do pay taxes on it. So there are a couple of small rules that you have to be aware of with the Roth account. One other thing with the Roth compared to the traditional does not have, as I said, the required minimum distributions. You can set this up as an estate planning tool and leave it to your heirs. Okay. So as I said, to get money from one of those traditional accounts, if you had an old 401k and you wanted to move money from a taxable environment to a tax-free environment, I use the word tax-free, but it's really just taking the taxation out of the equation for your growth. So if you had an old 401k and you wanted to convert it to a Roth account, in this example, we're taking $100,000. If we were in a 20% effective tax bracket, when we're converting that from a traditional to a Roth, we have to pay the taxes on whatever our tax rate is today. So if we were in a 20% effective tax bracket, on this example, we pay $20,000, but now we have $100,000 in a completely tax-free vehicle. Whatever I grow this money to in the future, whatever I invest in the future and grow that to, we've taken taxation out of the equation. We never pay taxes on that ever again. You don't have to convert in a large chunk. And this is what my spouse and I are doing based on the book Power of Zero. We're converting in just small segments on whatever we can afford that particular year. So on this particular example, same $100,000, if we only want to convert $50,000, we'd have a tax bill of $10,000. The IRS does not have a limit on what you can convert, how small the chunk is. It's whatever you can afford to convert from your traditional to a tax-free environment. Do that in small segments. But this is how you can move money from a taxable environment to a tax-free environment. And the sooner you can do that, the better. Because again, compounded interest, so powerful. And being able to use all of your IRA dollars to do a tax-free investment. We'll take a look at this. I want to give the first case study. This is a real estate investor out of Cincinnati. She's never ever contributed more than $500 to her account, to her Roth account. She actually did it as a challenge to herself and to her RIA. She belongs to a couple of RIAs in the Cincinnati area. Vina is a real estate educator, and she wanted to see what she could grow a Roth account to, having never contributed more than $500. In her first 12 months, she got it from $500 to $30,000. She now had the account for just a little over 3 years. I did another case study with her, and she was at $154,000 after the end of 3 years, having never ever contributed more than $500. I'll take you through the first deal. And I like being in this area because you guys can relate to some of these numbers. When I was in LA, I should have taken this one out because I used an example where the purchase price of a piece of property was $15,000. Hands went up. It's like, where can you buy a house for $15,000? You'd have to add at least another zero for it to make sense to these people. Like I said, void of common sense. This is a Class C rental property in Cincinnati, 3-bedroom, 1-bath. Vina purchased it for $15,000. Again, her account never had more than $500. So I'll take you through an illustration. This is just a high level. She got a hard money loan to secure the property, having put a $100 down payment out of her Roth. She then sold it, and I'll show you this transaction. She sold it for $26,500. She carried, her Roth account carried the note for the second buyer. So it was a down payment of $5,300, and then she carried the financing. Let me show you how it worked. And by the way, this entire transaction from start to finish was less than 2 months. So Vina, her Roth account, she took $100 and put an option to purchase this property. This was on a Friday. Her first RIA meeting was on a Tuesday. Went to her RIA meeting. Most RIAs, and I'm guessing you probably do as well, you do a buy-sell swap. Got up and said, I have this property. I'm looking for a hard money lender. It had a renter in it. She got up looking for a hard money lender. She secured a note for $15,000. Her IRA secured a note for $15,000 to purchase the property. Now, when your IRA is purchasing property, the only kind of a note that it can take is what's called a non-recourse note. A non-recourse note means that the person who is borrowing the money is only secured by the property itself. Vina didn't put up a personal guarantee for this. It never hit her credit score. There are banks around the country that will do a non-recourse loan, but this was a private lender where only the property itself was securing that property with a non-recourse loan. When an IRA is doing an investment, the IRA can't guarantee. So that person cannot come after your IRA if that loan goes bad. They are only guaranteed by the property itself. So now she secured the property. And again, this was on a Tuesday. Her second meeting was on a Thursday. Went to that second meeting and got up and said, I have this property. There is a renter in it. It's performing. I would like to sell the property. And I will carry the financing. Sold the property for $26,500. Her IRA carried the financing. The buyer made a down payment of $5,300. That down payment went right back into her IRA account. It was completely tax-free. That transaction is completely tax-free because it's in a Roth account. She now has a performing note. She's collecting $450. To her first private lender, she's paying out $304 a month. So she's net cash flowing $146. She now has a performing note in that IRA within 1 week. Her second transaction was she sold the note. She pulled the ripcord and got out of this transaction. So that all happened. It took a couple weeks, but within just 2 RIA meetings, bought a property and sold a property at 2 different RIA meetings. If you would like, I did a webinar with Vina, where she went over the first 4 deals that she did first 5 deals that she did in the first year. We did a detailed case study with Vina. I will also send you the recording of Vina's webinar, so you can hear her describe her deals, how she sourced it, what she would do differently. I just recorded the second webinar at the end of year 3. I will include that as well. So you'll get the webinar with the first year and the webinar after the end of 3 years. And again, at the end of 3 years, her account's up to $156,000, all tax-free. She's never put more than $500 into her account. And again, all she wants to do is continue to see what she can grow that account. She's doing it because, again, she's a real leader. She wants to do this to show her RIA members, this is what's possible. She's a well-educated real estate investor. Vina's 3rd generation real estate. But again, the only difference between Vina and other people that I see is Vina sought out education. She's an active participant in multiple RIAs. Going back to what I talked to at the beginning, be an active participant. Don't just sit and listen, participate. That's the power of these rooms. You're going to pick up a lot of good suggestions on what to do. So on Saturday, we'll go over all 5 investments because it's not just real estate. She let money out. She did note investing. She did a wrap mortgage. To really give you a better and better illustration of what all is possible and the diversity that you can have with just a couple of accounts. You don't have to have a lot of money in your account to do investing. She never had more than $500. So on Saturday, we're going to really go into much greater detail on this particular account. The next one I want to talk about is a family that came together and is doing real estate investing. The Saturday workshop that we're doing, this family, Jan, Gary, and Brittany, we met them in St. Louis. This is probably 5 years ago. Jan is a real estate broker out of St. Louis. Her husband, Gary, is an engineer. Brittany was 14 years old at the time of this picture, and she has a Roth account. You might say, how does a child have a Roth account? Probably the youngest person ever to have a Roth account in the country is our founder's grandson. He was 4 years old before, 4 hours old before he had a Roth account. The picture was up on our website, and they pay him a modeling fee. And if you look at our website, every year you'll see a picture of the grandkids as they progressed. If you are a real estate agent, take a picture of your kids, use them in your advertising. Pay them a modeling fee. You've now paid them. You'd have to pay about $6,000 now it's $6,000. You have to pay about 20% taxes. So $7,200 gets $6,000 in a Roth account. But now they have money in a tax-free vehicle, so they can invest into something like this. I'll take you through the first deal that Jan, Gary, and Brittany did together. Brittany is now 19. She's just out of college. I said just out of college. She was homeschooled, incredibly intelligent. We've had her up on our stage probably 3 different times. Her account is a healthy 6 digits. It's all in real estate. So I'll take you through the first deal that they did as a family. So it's certainly a Class A property. Again, Jan and Gary, they don't invest so much in a Class C property. They like a Class A property. Here's what you can do with combining accounts together. As I said, when you combine accounts together, in this example, Jan's 42, Gary's 55. Brittany has a very small account. She's getting 3% of the deal. When you're doing an IRA investment, whatever percentage that your IRA owns of an investment, all of the expenses have to be paid out in that proportion. All of the income has to flow back to the account in that proportion as well. I'll show you how this particular example works. The property was purchased for $306,000. Even things like earnest money has to flow back and forth in the percentage that the investor owns. So Brittany's earnest money was $90, only 3%. Jan $1,260, Gary $1,650. And the purchase price all has to be paid proportionally out of each account. With an IRA investment, you cannot, if two people are coming together, all of the profits cannot flow into one account and the expenses out of another. It all has to be done proportionally all the way through. As they renovated the property, and almost $300,000 went into this renovation, they hired a contractor, and they made 5 different payments. Again, in proportionate to what that account owned of the investment. With a IRA, when you're doing an IRA investment, notice when I said this is a family that came together. A lot of people say, well, I've heard of prohibited transactions. I know that there are certain members of the family that are prohibited from one another. Yes, up and down the lineal line, that's parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, you cannot invest with each other, except if you come together at the very start of a transaction. And if everything is titled correct, anybody can invest with anyone. I can even put my personal money together with my IRA money, and I can be taking a revenue stream and contribute to my IRA out of the same investment. We want to be very careful how we educate you on Saturday so you understand what you can do. So long as you do it at the start of a transaction, so long as you title everything properly, anyone can invest with anyone. I can even invest with myself. In other words, I can take my personal money and my IRA money and come together and do an investment. Family members can come together and do an investment. I'll have an example of one family that uses 13 different accounts to do investing so that they can do larger and larger deals. So again, on Jan, Gary, and Brittany, you might say this is sounding very difficult. We actually have everything online. Everything can be managed online. You can actually now, from start to finish, do a real estate transaction on a smartphone. We put an awful lot of investment into our online platform so that you can do everything online. You can do it on a smartphone, you can do it on a tablet. Take a picture, we don't need wet signatures anymore. So on Saturday, John will spend an awful lot of time talking about what is possible with technology. We've really spent an awful lot of time building on our technology to help people. So everything can be managed on our online platform. Very, very important. Before and after pictures, again, this is a Class A property. So they really fix the property up very, very nice. And in the end, they sold the property for $767,000. Everything has to flow back to the accounts in the proportion to whatever the account invested. So in the end, Brittany's account collected $4,900, Jan's almost $79,000, and Gary's $90,000. This is their very first deal. Almost $164,000, 100% tax-free. None of the 3 individuals will ever pay ordinary income tax or capital gains on that because it was done out of a Roth account. That's the power of a Roth account. You're avoiding ordinary income tax and capital gains on any of your future investments. Okay? As I said, on Saturday, John will go over families coming together and using multiple accounts. One of the very first real estate transactions that was ever done with the self-directed IRA, Mr. Dessage, the founder of Equity Trust, he came together with 22 accounts for one commercial property. He actually got the idea to do this. Again, I got to go back to the importance of ARIA. Mr. Dessage is a real estate investor himself. He attended a RIA meeting in Akron, Ohio. RIA had probably 35 people. He was looking for financing to do a real estate investment. It was at a RIA meeting where he heard stories of people who had money in their retirement accounts but were cash poor to do a real estate investment. So it was actually at a RIA meeting that the light bulb went up for Mr. Dessage. He got the idea to start this company at a RIA meeting. And this is a $150 billion industry. Got its start at an Akron, Ohio RIA meeting. Go to a RIA meeting with an open mind. Listen to speakers. Connect dots. Again, there's some very, very experienced real estate investors in here. I can't say enough about being an active participant in your RIA. This industry got its start in a room just like this. So, again, just showing you what's possible. This is a investor out of Cleveland. His wife happens to be a banking executive. They're in the highest tax bracket there is. The husband Stan, actually, they started with mobile home investing. Never poo-poo a small thing like a mobile home investment. That was actually my first deal that I ever did back in 1984 when I was in college. I rented it back to my fraternity brothers, and that's when I got bitten by the real estate bug. Was started with a mobile home investing. Stan started out mobile home investing, moved to mobile home parks, single family, commercial property. They now join all these accounts together to buy medical imaging equipment, and they rent it back to doctors' offices. So that's what he does to grow these accounts. They still have mobile homes, they still have mobile home parks, they still do some commercial real estate. But now he's into medical imaging equipment because that's what he understands now. And again, we'll show you how these accounts are growing. We'll go into it in some detail on Saturday of how you can do multiple accounts to do a single investment. Question?
On the educational account, does that count against the student when they're applying for, aid?
No.
Okay, it's not considered.
No, it does not. So that's not going to count against them. So, do you have a question?
Yeah. The first deal you had was leverage. I always understood there was tax consequences if you earned money with borrowed money.
Sure. So the question is on leveraged IRA. He understood that there is a tax called UBIT, unrelated business income tax. We're going to spend a lot of time on that on Saturday as well. Because again, it's a very egregious tax. It is on, you're paying a tax based on the percentage that was leveraged of that. UBIT has, it's a 36.4% tax rate. Just like any business though, expenses can be written down. We have 250,000 clients, and I believe there was under 1,000 people that paid UBIT last year out of our entire book of business. John will spend time talking to you about how to reduce your UBIT tax. And really, you're running a business. You're taking the write-off from that. The other thing I'll say about UBIT is if you don't have money to do a deal and you have to leverage, you have to take a loan. If that was the cost of doing that first deal, so be it. You're growing your account in a tax-free manner. If you had to leverage that first deal, so what? You're going to grow that account. I do have an offer coming up. There is a book that was written by North America Savings Bank. They're the largest lender of non-recourse loans. And they did several case studies, some of them using our clients, on illustrating how to avoid unrelated business income tax. It's called unrelated business income tax, sometimes unrelated debt financing as well, two different taxes. But we will spend a lot of time on UBIT on Saturday's workshop because it scares the heck out of people, and yet it is a tax where very few people ever pay it. People are afraid of it, so we want to make sure we talk about it and illustrate how you can reduce that.
So, did I understand your answer that you don't have to disclose the child's IRA on
Correct.
the FAFSA form?
Correct.
Okay.
The CISA. Mm-hmm. And again, I'll have John talk about that to go through the form
Okay.
as well. And we had another question over here.
What is the fee for that workshop?
It is, and I'll actually hand this out because that way, if people do want the workshop, they can see Terry in the back. It is $48. $48. That does include the lunch, and does include the take-home course that you'll get. Again, we recorded the courses. We want to make sure people don't get lost just trying to take notes, and that way they're listening and learning. We recorded the workshop, and we'll send the recordings back to you. We also have the retirement calculators we send back to you. We also, we do a 3-day workshop. We recorded that, and you'll be getting segments that we recorded from our clients talking about their accounts. So I'll get into that with some more detail. Let's go over here.
If you already have a self-directed 401k with real estate in it, rental income properties, can you convert that to a Roth?
No, unfortunately, again, the question is, if you already had a 401k with real estate in it, you have a self-directed IRA, could you convert that from a traditional to a Roth? You cannot. It has to be on a new investment. And again, we'll get into the finer points of IRS code. Whenever you're doing a self-directed IRA or an IRA investment, if you already own the property, then you cannot invest into a property that you already own. It has to be a new investment moving forward. Okay, question back here.
Yeah, hey Ken, so the advantage of a Roth is you're limited how much you can contribute. You can actually contribute more, but it's taxable, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You're limited on how much you can contribute, but you're unlimited on how much you can earn. And that earning is tax deferred as long as you follow the rules of the Roth, which is has to be 5 years old and 59 and a half. Is that correct?
Tax-free. On a Roth account, it would be tax-free. Traditional would be tax deferred. But yeah, with the example I used with Mitt Romney, good example. He had the same limitations on contributions that any of us do in this room. It's what he did to grow the account that was different. Yep, the earnings are tax-free moving forward.
So it was either 2010 or 2011, the IRS waived the fee for converting from a traditional or a 401k to a Roth.
Correct.
Do you guys foresee that happening anytime soon? Because that was an incredible offer.
Oh, it was a great year for us, let me tell you.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah. I really don't. That was done to try to get more and more tax dollars collected. Because again, that was during the height of the bust. Hopefully we won't have to live through something like that ever again. But quite frankly, the federal coffers were running low, and they wanted to get more people, more tax dollars in. So they gave us a one-time tax vacation. Yeah, I don't know that we'll ever see that again. I think it would have to take a financial calamity like we lived in 2007, 2008. The other question I get is, do we ever foresee a Roth account may disappear? I have no idea.
I wouldn't think so.
Hope not. I hope not. That's why we do tell people, get money into a Roth account when we can, so that way it's grandfathered in. But nobody has a crystal ball. Can't say for sure.
On the Coverdale IRA, the educational IRA, so you can open up that account for anyone under the age of 18, but can't they participate in it through 30?
Let's see, you have until age 30, 30 or 35, to use that account for a qualified education expense. And a qualified education expense can be pre-K, kindergarten, school uniforms, field trips. It's not just college. If the person has not used it, I don't know if it's 30 or 35. If they haven't used it by 30, they can do one of two things. They can give it to a family member. It transfers to the family member, does not create a taxable event. Or they can distribute the account. When they distribute the account, they do pay taxes on it, and there is a 10% penalty. So worst case scenario, they distribute the account. Best case scenario, if they have children or niece or nephew or a relative, they can actually transfer that account to another family member.
Okay, so that transfer can be either vertically or horizontally?
Correct. Yeah.
What, self-dealing, what is that? Could you cover that just?
Sure. And this is one we're going to spend quite a bit of time on. A self-dealing transaction. A couple of different definitions. A self-dealing transaction could be something, if I already own a piece of property and I try to invest in it, it's prohibited. IRS says that's a self-dealing transaction. Another one is making an egregious rate of return, although the IRS has never just defined what an egregious rate of return is. Romney got away with a pretty large number. They would look upon that as being a self-dealing transaction. I will say you're certainly more apt to be audited if you show ridiculous rates of return in your account. Our average book of business is double digit returns, but it's all over the map. There's no such thing as what is the standard rate of return. It's really what you guys put together in your own transactions. Again, I see numbers all over the map. John's going to spend a lot of time dealing with that term. There's not enough case law to define what self-dealing is. We do know that if you already own a piece of property, or your family member owns a piece of property, your wife, your grandparents, your in-laws, you cannot have your IRA purchase that property. That's a prohibited transaction. We'll be very careful to define what prohibited transactions are. Again, just to keep you safe, to keep our company safe as well.
Is there a way to structure it in a Roth IRA where like you buy a rental property, the income from that you could take personally, but allow the growth and appreciation to accumulate in the Roth?
Sure. Yes, there is, but you have to do it this way. You would have to put some of your money into the transaction. If you put 50% of your own money in and 50% of your Roth money, then just like the family illustration I did, 50% of that transaction, the funds, would flow back to you personally, and 50% would go back to the Roth. So you have to do it at the start of a transaction, at the start of the investment, where you are joining your money together and your IRA money together.
So 50% of the rental profit
would go back to you, and 50% would go back into the Roth.
And I guess you have different management agreements, or the deal has its own operating agreement or something.
Sure, and we're gonna get very, very specific on this on Saturday. That's okay.
Are those forms that y'all provide as part of having?
A very important question. Can we provide the forms? We can give suggestions. We cannot provide the actual forms because we are not fiduciaries. So we can't tell you what to do and how to do it. We can tell you what you can and cannot do. There are some sample forms up, but for the most part, you're going to have to put together an operating agreement. John will use some very specific examples on Saturday, and he'll be able to give you some more context around that. But I do see several questions where people are asking, I need an income stream now and save for my retirement. Even if it's 10% going into your retirement account, great. Put 90% of the money up front from you, 10% from your Roth account. That way you're taking an income stream now and still saving for retirement. And you're saving for retirement in a tax-free manner. We will get into titling of these transactions. It's very, very important. I think I may have a slide coming up. When you're using a self-directed IRA, the titling of how you have a investment titled, very important. It is always equity trust because we're the custodian. FBO stands for benefit of, and then your IRA. I like anonymity. Nowhere will you find my name in public record. I think we talked about that. Nowhere will you find my name in public record. Everything is titled in my IRA account number that is assigned to Equity Trust. So the titling is Equity Trust FBO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only way that a custodian can disclose who owns that account is with a court order. If someone has a problem with a property or is trying to sue a property, they call us to say, Equity Trust, who owns this account number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can't even get into the accounts without a password. If they can't provide a password, the conversation's done. So only with a court order can a custodian disclose information like that. Number one, you should always have your property insured, obviously. Always try to do the right thing. But I like anonymity. I don't want my name in the public record. So I have things titled in a number. Okay. There's another question back here. Yeah.
So Saturday, you guys will be covering unrelated business income tax, right?
Yep. UBIT, unrelated business income tax, and unrelated debt financing.
I know there's some really crazy loopholes there.
There are some very creative loopholes. Again, we can only tell people what to do, what not to do. We have to quote IRS code. The things that we're going to be quoting, compliance would never let me call it a loophole. It is an allowable legal transaction based on the tax code.
I'm the same.
Yep. I'm being recorded here. And the other thing with the backdoor conversion, there's no such thing as a backdoor conversion. It's strictly you're just converting. You're opening a traditional, you're converting to a Roth. Backdoor conversion is a slang. I saw that Fidelity is now advertising backdoor conversion. That slang term has now become such a common term that now some of the custodians are actually advertising it. But there's actually no such thing as a backdoor conversion. It's strictly an IRA conversion. Just like there's no such thing as a self-directed IRA. It's just a custodian that lets you do an investment outside of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That's all it is. That's back here, Terry.
Ken, a number of years ago, I heard something and I've been curious about it. If you're doing flips in your self-directed,
Yes.
Is there a limit on how many you should do before the IRS looks at
Sure.
you as being like?
As operating an ongoing business. So the question is, if you're doing flips, is there is there tax law saying how many you can do before you're looked upon as operating a business out of your IRA? There is no definitive number. We tell people to stay between 3 and 5. Don't if you're going over that, if you're doing more than one, if you're doing one every other month, the IRS could look at it as being an ongoing business out of your IRA. If they deem that it's an ongoing business out of your IRA, you would be subject to UBIT tax, unrelated business income tax. Stay within 3 to 5. Don't go above that to be safe. It has not been defined though, and then again, that's one of those nuances. Until there is definite law where they define it, we just have to tell you what has been safe for our clients, and we never use the word advise. Strongly suggest that you don't go over that number. Thank you.
On the self-directed accounts for your real estate, isn't the value has to be under $250,000 for all properties before you are required to file a federal tax?
Again, I'm going to have to defer that question, John. The question was before you have to report if it is under the value of $250. The IRS does request that you give a valuation, a third-party valuation of the property every year. It is a request, not a requirement. We send our clients notices usually at the end of the year, and then we put it on their electronic statement when they get it. We do not have a current valuation. We use the value, the cash value of the account, and the investment value of the account until you give us a new third-party valuation. So again, it's not a requirement; it is only a request that we have a new valuation every 12 months. Again, that hasn't been defined.
Don't you have to do that every 3 years though to make by what's it, one of those brokers called? People that go out and they'll do a quick appraisal just to drive by a truck.
And I don't know the answer to that, so I'm going to have to ask that you ask that of John. I apologize. I work on the marketing side. Some of the smaller nuances, I've got to defer that to John, who actually works on the account side. And we'll have senior speakers here on Saturday doing the workshop. So I got to give that question to John.
I've been told different things.
Okay. Yep. And again, so much of it, unless there's case law behind it, and that's why I want you to talk to John. John studies the case law behind it, and he can sometimes get in the weeds a little bit because he'll start quoting the actual case law number. You don't need all that. You just need yes or no. But yeah, bring that question on Saturday. Okay. Question.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could, a property that's owned with a partner outside of the IRA, buy out your partner with IRA money.
The IRA, so long as that person is not a disqualified person. A disqualified person is up and down the lineal chain, so parent, grandparent, kids, grandkids, stepkids. So
Further,
if it's your brother's going across line. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles are going across. So the question is, if you own a piece of property, your IRA owned a piece of property with another partner, could I buy out that other partner? The answer would be yes, providing they're not a disqualified person. So it has to be just an investor that would not go up and down the lineal chain.
well, it's not in an IRA,
So their portion is not in an IRA, right?
well, none of it's in an
Oh,
IRA.
okay.
Yeah.
But this is an investment that you already own.
Yes,
Okay, so if it's an investment that you already own, then your IRA cannot partake in it. It has to be a new investment. So that would be a prohibited transaction. So, right, all of these illustrations that I'm talking about, these are new investments, not an investment that the person already owned. Again, we will be very careful on Saturday to define prohibited transactions, because there is case law defining prohibited transactions, so that we can actually quote what you can and cannot do. We can be very definitive about that. Okay, and Terry, did you have another question or not? Nope. Okay. So again, we'll go over using multiple IRAs to do larger and larger deals. And again, bringing together family accounts, your own accounts, other investors coming together and doing transactions. We'll use several examples of large transactions that were done with multiple accounts. So let's talk a little bit about getting started. Again, 3 easy steps when you're doing a self-directed IRA. You open an account, you fund an account, and you tell us what you want to invest in. A lot of times we'll get a question, it's like, okay, I've got an investment I want to do, I found it, I want to do this investment next week. We can open an account, or any custodian can open an account, usually same day, next day. The problem is getting those funds from your current custodian over to us. That could, by law, take 6 weeks. So always have your account already open, at least to speed that transaction up. The other thing, if you're opening an account and you're transferring funds or you're rolling over funds from one custodian to another, so long as it's staying in the same type of account, that doesn't create a taxable event. It's only if you were going to go from a traditional to a Roth account that creates a taxable event. But if you're going to stay within the same type of account, that never creates a taxable event. When you're rolling funds over from one custodian to another, you can do it by a wire transfer, an ACH, or a check. For whatever reason, people always say roll it over in a check because they don't want to pay a fee. That automatically slows your deal down by about 2 weeks from any custodian. Because we have to get the funds, and it usually takes five days then to show up in your account. Equity Trust, we are a non-depository bank. We have a bank charter. We pay the ACHs for free. So if we have to pay your bills out of your account, we can ACH the next day for no charge. I'll get into the fees in just a second. So again, getting started, 3 different ways of funding an account. If you have an old account, you can roll it over to Equity Trust. You can transfer funds from one custodian to another, or you can open a new account. Those are three methods of funding an IRA. And then step 3, just tell us what you want to invest in. Again, this is just a partial list. I could go on for pages and pages of what you want to invest in. Tell us what you want to invest. There is a standard form to fill out called a direction of investment. Doing real estate, direction of real estate investment. It's a standard form to tell us what you want us as the administrator to do on behalf of your IRA. And we will get pretty specific on the required paperwork. Question is, will we provide forms? There are standard forms that we do provide, but if a note investment, if you have to put together a note investment with another investor, we can tell you what how the form should appear. We can't give you specifics. Why Equity Trust? We are the nation's oldest and largest custodian for self-directed IRAs. We got our start as a traditional brokerage firm back in '74. offering stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Wasn't until 94 when Mr. Dessage was actually 93 when Mr. Dessage attended a RIA meeting looking for funding, that he got the idea to do a self-directed IRA. Mr. Dessage was one of the very first people in the country to ever do a real estate transaction using a self-directed IRA. That deal, that very first deal, put together 22 different accounts to do a commercial real estate project. The project was just sold, I believe 2 years ago. It was a Rite Aid pharmacy and a strip mall. That 22 different investors came together. We'll actually go through that very first transaction with you on Saturday, so you can see how the industry grew, what it grew from. We have over $25 billion on assets under custody. We are an IRS-approved custodian. One very important distinction with equity trust versus other self-directed IRA custodians, we actually have a brokerage firm behind us as well, Equity Advisors, Equity Brokerage. So if you are in between an investment, rather than your money sitting in a money market account earning a very, very small amount of interest, you can move your money back into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, keeping it on the same platform. And then when you do have an investment, you're selling your stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and deploying the cash back to buy a piece of real estate. So with Equity Trust, we are both traditional, stocks, bonds, and mutual fund, and alternatives, alternative investment with the self-directed IRA. And just a very, very customer focus, I'll get into that in just a moment. In this space, there are 3 different types of players in this space. There are custodians, administrators, and facilitators. Only the custodians are licensed and regulated by Department of Labor and Internal Revenue Service. Administrators and facilitators are writing business for a custodian. So whoever you're doing business with, check that company out as well. If you do business with Equity Trust, great, but if you do business with one of our competitors, ask questions on how they're licensed and regulated. Are they a custodian or an administrator? Are they a facilitator? Just understand the different licensing and government oversight that the 3 different parties have. Custodians are the only ones that are licensed and regulated by Department of Labor, Internal Revenue Service, Department of Banking. We have 7 different government agencies that oversee Equity Trust. Client focused, our average client, average customer service rep has over 5 years of experience. They've processed over 8,800 transactions, 2,800 of them being real estate specific. That's our average customer service rep. We have just a little over 400 employees. As I said, everything can be done online. All of our platform is now mobile friendly. It can be done on a smartphone or tablet as well. Education is huge. Just like you're here to learn about real estate, education is huge with us. We have decades of knowledge and experience in this field. Go onto our website under the resource tab. There are hours and hours and hours of webinars we've recorded. If you're interested in commercial property, listen to some of our training on commercial property. If you're doing a buy and hold, fix and flip, whatever you're doing, we probably have education, very specific education on our website that we've gone out with one of our clients who's actually done quite well and recorded some education with that person. Also, a lot of white papers on our website. So education is huge with us. We want our clients to be very educated. Just like the one-day workshop that we're doing on Saturday, that's another education wing of our company. Huge to get the education. Here in the field, we don't open accounts on Saturday because I will have an account advisor with us. We'll open an account on Saturday. If we're doing a talk like this, we don't open accounts. We want you to sit down and talk to the right people before you take a step forward of opening an account. So don't worry, tonight I'm not trying to open accounts. What does it cost? Very important. We have an annual account fee based on the size of an account. Annual account fee based on the size of the account. We do not do transaction fees. In other words, if you have bill pays that we need to pay out, and if you're doing real estate investing, there's a lot of bill pays. There's going to be insurance bills. There's going to be utility bills, repair bills. We are an online bank. All that can be done with ACHs. There's no charge to that. So our Account fees start at $205 a year, and it goes up to $2,150. It's actually negotiable once you get over $2 million of account value. So it's an annual fee based on the size of the account. There's a $50 setup fee. If you open an account on Saturday, the $50 setup fee is waived because you're doing it at an equity trust event. Okay. So we'll have this in handout on Saturday. But again, the average account fee that our client pays is $400 a year. For all of this, $400 a year is an average. As I did say, you will get a download of this book for anyone who filled out that card. I'll also send you Venus webinars as well. On Saturday, anyone who comes on Saturday, if you do open an account, we will have physical books with us. We just want to make sure that we give you some physical books. Also, if you do open an account with Equity Trust, our founder's executive vice chair of the board recorded some education and put it together in DVD. Anyone who opens an account does get the copy of that DVD as well. If someone is interested, and again, we don't open accounts in the field, but if someone is interested in opening an account, you can do it Saturday. If you're not going to be at Saturday's workshop, let me know. I can take your information and have someone give you a call. But if you're not, that's only if you're not going to be around on Saturday. I encourage people to come on Saturday because John and Jessica will do a much, much deeper dive. Our working lunch is very important. We want people to bring the transactions they're working on now. What investments are you doing right now? How can we save taxes on that? Bring your questions. Let's get them answered. Then we'll do a working lunch on Saturday. We'll have a panel of local investors as well, talking about what they've done with their accounts locally. I can talk to you about what people are doing in other parts of the country. That's not going to matter to you at all. What are local investors doing, and what's working, what's not working. So we'll have a panel of local investors in the afternoon. The morning sessions will really, we layer on education. We'll start with prohibited transactions. What's possible, what does the IRS say we cannot do. We'll slowly layer on education. We'll talk about doing multiple accounts, investing in commercial real estate. We'll get into the UBIT, unrelated business income tax conversation. Then in the afternoon, we're going to really talk about case studies. We want people to understand what our clients are doing, how they're doing their account. So if you can't come on Saturday and you're interested in having someone call you, let me know and I'll take your information. On those cards, if you don't want someone to call you, just put do not call. No big deal to us at all. We still want to send you the copies of the books, the copies of the webinar. We'll drip information and education on you. That way, if you're ever wanting to move forward, you would have been educated through the next several months, and we're here whenever you need us. Talk a little bit more about Saturday's workshop. Two things I want to give to the people who, there are some people who already signed up for our workshop. If you've already signed up for the workshop, as a reward for coming to the meeting, I've got this book and also Leverage Your IRA, which talks about unrelated business income tax and taking out a loan with your IRA. This book was done by North America Savings Bank. I have physical copies of that hard copy book and also the field book. So if you've already registered, I want to get your address so I can send you those two books back to you. If you register for the workshop tonight, and only if you register tonight, you'll get copies of both books as well. So anyone who registers tonight, I do have the flyer. Did I pass out the flyer yet? Okay. Again, I'll get your name and address. I'll have to get your address because you're going to get the physical book mailed to you. If you register tonight, make sure I get your address. If you've already registered, I just need your name so I can get the books mailed to you. Terry will process the payments in the back. You can take credit card or check. Again, the cost of the workshop, including lunch, is $48.
In actuality, credit card companies have to make money. swipe your card, we're gonna add the $2 like we do for a regular $50, dues. So in order to keep it straight as to whether you pay for your dues or you pay for your workshop, I'm just gonna add 5 cents if that's okay with everybody. So we'll know that you paid for the workshop and you paid for the dues.
And again, if you've already signed up for the workshop, make sure I get your name tonight, because I want to make sure we get the copies of the books to you. Anyone who signs up tonight, make sure on the back of this form, you put your address, so that way I'll know where to send the books. You'll get a physical copy of our book, the Blue Book, and also the North America Savings Bank book for signing up for the Saturday workshop tonight. Question?
Do you have different levels of membership?
No, it's different levels of membership. Let me go back. We do have what's called gold level service. Gold level service, again, we have 250,000 clients. Gold level service clients are usually some of our largest clients, active investors. We do have a separate platform just for them. Gold level service gives our clients, our GLS clients, our most senior advisors or senior processors, senior investment team. Individual points of contact into that team. When we come in, first thing in the morning, there's a couple hundred transactions to process. GLS business is processed first, and then the others. Sorry, that's the only way we can do it. Gold level service is $250 a year, and it does give you again our most senior processors or our senior investment advisors, and a direct point of contact, individual points of contact. Okay. Question maker.
Ken, back to the Coverdale, am I correct in assuming that it's not just for college? If you have kids at home in private school, they could use that money for that as well?
Yep. Any qualified educational expense, and again, could be pre-K all the way through post-secondary. Field trips, private boarding schools, books, uniforms, anything like that. Not just college tuition. Any qualified educational expense can be paid for out of a Coverdale Education Savings Account, the CISA.
Special needs education.
Special needs. Oh, and let me hit on special needs. If your child has special needs, that age limit of 30 is taken off. If your child has special needs, then the CISA never expires. To a child that has special needs, the Coverdale Education Savings Account never expires. Okay. On Saturday, they will go much slower and give you more detail. As you can see, when I'm going very quickly, I'm not able to give all the detail. When you ask a question, I'll step back and answer it. But yes, a good example. Coverdale, special needs child, never expires for them. I have just about used up all my time plus a little bit more. Again, see Terry to pay for Saturday's workshop. I'm going to be sticking around to answer more questions. Bring your questions on Saturday. John and Jessica can get very much in the weeds. While one is speaking, the other is going to be able to take your questions in the back. And if they need to set up more time with you after the workshop, they can do that. They want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. It's very, very important that you get all the questions answered, that you're comfortable. I think it's also important that we're going to have some of our clients there, so you can hear what some local clients are doing within the self-directed IRA market right here. All right? Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.